So here we are back in the Humidor at Davidoff of London, one of the most famous in all of Europe, and with none other than Max Foulkes. Max, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Kirby.
having us.
Good to see you.
On the success of our last video, the unusual and unpopular, I thought it'd be fun to film a second installment.
Yes.
Of course, one of my favorite things here in London, of course, is stopping at Davidoff of London. And one of the things I think makes this store so special, of course, is just the acumen and skill of the cigar sommeliers like yourself that are always on hand to help navigate the consumer through this incredible humidor of cigars. And you, of course, have a very particular take of the unusual and unpopular. So I'm always interested to see what you're teasing out of these nooks and crannies. And I thought we would see what you have in store for us today.
Well, yes. Well, thank you again for visiting, Kirby. It's always good to have you in the shop and in the humidor as well. So, yeah, last time we spoke about a few different things from the 90s, a few different brands. This time, I'd like to look at some limited editions.
Okay.
There's three. So the 2007 limited editions. So we're looking at the Romeo y Julieta Escudos, a Gordito size, the Joya de Monterrey Regalos, which I believe is called a Regalos, and the Trinidad Ingenios, which is a Cervantes or a Lonsdale.
Okay.
So there's three of them. Admittedly, I only have one.
Okay.
Which shows how, incredibly scarce and maybe unpopular that they are. But it's showing you maybe these cigars weren't necessarily the best when they first were released, but it shows you to never give up. You know? You should always let them rest. Things may change, and they may get better. And in this case, they certainly have.
They have through the judgment of your skilled tasting.
Yes.
Right. Everything must be tasted in order for these assessments to be made.
Very much so. And I've got to admit, this is very much up to Edward and Eddie having tasted the cigars in 2007 and decided upon the fact that they may need a little time. And they've been brought out of, how should we call it, their deep sleep.
Okay.
And brought into the light. And I have the Escudos to show you. I love this Vitola.
Yeah, let's see it.
It's a very, very good size.
So this is the special little vintage cabinet, right?
This is the one. We've got some very special things in there. Things that shall not be named, but mainly some Cuban Davidoff.
Under lock and key. It's an additional lock and key.
Exactly. But this is the box. So as you can see, 2007 Edición Limitada. And this is the cigar.
Wow. So was this a limited edition for for Britain?
Yeah, well, this was just a limited edition all the world round.
Okay.
Look at that incredibly dark, oily wrapper to it.
Yeah, the darker wrappers certainly, do seem to lend better to aging, right?
Oh yeah, certainly. And I have had the pleasure of smoking this cigar only twice since I've worked here.
Okay.
We did have them on the shelf for a very short period of time, but no longer. And I had to ask the boss if these examples are actually available for purchase. We never really know. But a very, very good cigar, and something that, admittedly, in 2007, I wasn't quite of the age to legally smoke, so I didn't get to smoke it at the time. But I have had one, and they've really, I can imagine that the sharpness that was there originally has really subsided. They're very smooth, very sweet, mellow, about an hour-long smoke, a good 50 ring gauge, a Gordito.
Beautiful.
I think they're very, very good. And something, hopefully you get to try at some point in the future.
So why 2007? It's an interesting kind of year. Is there a particular reason?
Yes. So 2007 was the first year that Cuba went from solely aging the wrapper leaf of the cigar for 2 years. This is what they did on all limited editions prior to that, to aging binder and filler leaves for 2 years as well. So this is why I believe a lot of people thought the cigars released in 2007 were unusual, maybe slightly immature, because there was that change. And my boss Eddie really wasn't so keen on the cigars at the time. And it shows that like we said, you should never really give up on these things, because over the years they really have improved.
And aging the cigar really does allow the tobacco time to blend and to rest, and to settle. And so the flavors, if it's harsh in the palate as a new cigar, certainly mellow over that time. Right?
Yes, no, that's very true. Sometimes on a youthful cigar, there is a sharpness, and you can notice it, and even people that don't smoke regularly may notice that sharpness as well. But it's terribly interesting to smoke the same cigar from different periods of time and notice that they can be completely different.
Yeah. So if this was changed in 2007 to be aged for 2 years, for how long was it aged prior to that?
So it would just be the regular aging process, which would be between 9 and 12 months.
Okay.
And then that was 2 years added on top of that as well. So to a degree, youthful tobacco used in the cigar. And you know, as many people know, when cigars come out of Cuba, there's a great thing on the Rafael Gonzalez box where it says cigars should be smoked imminently or left for at least a year before smoking. And to a degree, I certainly agree with that myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, your father, was in touch, and of course, he and you have been filming the brilliant series of Foulkes Sons, tasting cigars and kind of what is the term, beating the virus one Corona at a time.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah. We're fighting the virus one Corona at a time.
Fighting the virus one Corona at a time is the hashtag. One Corona at a time, manner.
Brilliant. We do not mess around. The world of Foulkes and Sons.
Fighting the virus one Corona at a time.
Single Corona. Fighting the virus.
One Corona at a time.
Still fighting the virus one Corona at a time, very unfortunately.
That's all up to my father. The man is a genius.
Well, you're very much in his footsteps with so many things, especially your taste in cigars. So I think that we were going to film a video on Friday.
I think that might be the case.
Which would be fun. It would be my debut on the show.
Yeah.
I'm already nervous.
It's not quite as high tech as what you've got going on here. We just recently bought microphones.
Yes.
So that's how far we've gotten. And we've been doing this thing for, I don't know, since the beginning of lockdown, and we've survived up until now without microphones.
Well, you're on season what now?
God alone knows. My father.
Season 5 or season 4. Just the last.
Churning them out.
Yeah. Well, it's really been great fun to watch you and your father. You have such great rapport together. Of course, you and your father, being, big connoisseurs of fine cigars and really all things fine, and certainly all things quality craftsmanship and tradition. So this is going to be fun to finally be able to make it on there. Something that I've watched so much during the lockdown. And this cigar, I think, would be a great one to smoke.
I think it might be, and I think if I ask in the right manner, and we may be able to smoke one.
We may be able to find 3.
Yeah, quite possibly. We might have to chop one into thirds. You never know. But yes, a delightful cigar, and alongside the other two, which unfortunately we no longer have in the shop, very, very good smokes. And if you ever see them about,
grab them.
Grab them. Yeah, grab them if you can.
Yeah, well, that again is one of the things that's so special about Davidoff of London is the fact that the Sahakians have their own, private reserve of cigars that they've been aging that you couldn't even find amongst the other cigar merchants here in London.
God, they have some amazing things, and Edward and Eddie have been a huge influence on my life. And before working here, I knew next to nothing about cigars, and now I've really developed a passion, for them. And this is, not only due to my father, but Edward and Eddie, who are now like second and third fathers, so
right.
or maybe uncles, or godparents.
Yes,
almost.
If we were also lucky, right?
Yeah, if we were, yes. But it's always a pleasure to work here, and Edward and Eddie, they're always bringing things up from downstairs that no one's seen for seems like eternity, and it's always good. Often in this vintage cabinet, which we delved into now, they do every so often break into boxes. And you can pick single cigars that you wouldn't normally be able to get as individual pieces. You'd only be able to buy them as boxes. So it's always nice to give the opportunity to people like myself that don't necessarily have enough money to buy a full box of that specific cigar, just to try a single one, and see what it's all about.
And this is being curated by Edward and Eddie, kind of from their private reserve. So again, it's a very it's a very prestigious collection in and of itself.
Yeah, no, it certainly is, and it's just brilliant. I mean, we've got such a selection here, and we've got such a selection in the little cabinet as well.
Plenty to smoke through.
Certainly is.
Let's do our part.
Yeah.
And see what we think of this. And Max, of course, thank you so much.
Kirby.
It's always a pleasure to see you here in the Humidor, and I'm
very kind.
I'm so thrilled that we're going to be able to enjoy a cigar together soon.
Brilliant. Lovely to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.